All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Dental Marketing Secrets Podcast. I'm your host, Mark Thackeray, and I'm excited to welcome George White to the show from Patterson Dental. He's going to join us. We're going to talk about return on relationship a little bit. But George, thanks for joining us, man.
No, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here and to get to know you and your audience a little bit. This is awesome.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. And kind of like we talked about before, I think there's just, before we hit record, we were just discussing a few things. And I said, man, I think it's a good opportunity for someone like you to come in and share your perspective with practices. I mean, you have such a good window into what they're doing. You're working with a lot of different practices and you kind of see it from a little different lens than I probably would, for example. So I think your insight will be very valuable as we get into this. But why don't you take a minute, George, and just kind of take a few minutes actually and share your background a little bit and your experience in dental.
Yeah. So I started in dental, 13 years ago, I think, is when I started. I owned a satellite company coming out of college and was doing great. And then Dish Network didn't renew our contract and I had to go
Yeah.
figure out life. And I had to go back to school and finish my bachelor's degree. And when I got out of it, I got into dental. I started with Tulsa Dental Specialties and was their territory rep here. For about 4 years, moved into a CAD CAM role with Patterson. That was my first stint with Patterson. Got to sell the CEREC machine,
Yeah.
and then I went on to be the VP of sales for a local group called CAO Group and AMD Lasers. And then about three and a half years ago, the current general manager at Patterson that I'd worked for before was said that he was going to start a new venture and called me and was like, I think you're the perfect guy to replace me and stuff here. So I think you need to throw your name in the hat. So
Yeah.
about 3.5 years ago, I did. I threw my name in the hat and got the general manager position here at Patterson and have been here ever since and have loved the opportunity to get to know the dentists at a different level.
Yeah.
Um, it's funny to see how much they trust somebody with a title over just their normal territory rep and stuff that's coming in and the
Yeah.
information that they'll share and different things like that. So
Yeah.
um, I think as a rep and being in dentistry as long as I have and stuff and in this market, I feel like probably my superpower and our superpower here at Patterson is that we get to see all of these practices. We get to see the
Right.
good ones. We get to see the bad ones. We get to see
Yeah.
the fantastic decisions that people are making, and we get to see the really, really bad decisions that people
Yeah.
are making too. And not only get to see those decisions, but we get to see the ripple effect of them 6 months down the road, a year down the road, 5 years down the road. And so we can really kind of help these offices kind of guide away from the stumbling blocks and introduce them to the things that we've seen have built our best practices that we work with and stuff in the valley.
Yeah. Yeah, that's funny that you mentioned that, George, because that's one thing that I talk about a lot with clients is just the visibility. I mean the ability to see what people are doing here, in this market versus others. Like that's one of the things that I love best is just having clients all over the place and just being
Yeah.
able to say, okay, well, this is what I'm seeing elsewhere. Maybe we can apply that, and use that with your practice, for example.
Yeah. Yep, for sure.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. So we kind of teased the topic today, which is return on relationship. And this was actually something that you brought up. And so I wanted you to kind of expand on what that definition means. Return on relationship. We're pretty familiar with return on investment, but what do you mean when you say return on relationship?
Yeah, return on relationships just a different way to look at your spend and the time. When I talk about spend, I'm talking about money, but I'm also talking about those that you choose to spend your time with and stuff as well, and what they bring and stuff into your life. I remember there was a podcast. It wasn't even a podcast. I guess it was a book on CD or something like this
Yeah.
back in the day that I remember listening to while I was driving around doing satellites, and I remember listening to this guy, and he was kind of a mental coach for baseball players, is that's why I was listening to it. But he also did some consulting with some bankers and different things like that on the side. And he talked about the biggest like light bulb that happened with bankers when he would go in and work with them is they would look at their profit and loss statement and they would see black and they would see red and they would go try to reduce the red with the thought process that would automatically add to the black. And he was like, they did not understand the relationship between those numbers. And that if you're spending money and stuff here, there's a relationship to the black. So if you go to try to save money here, but you're spending on something, I used to use this in endo and stuff all the time. Like, doctor, if you're spending $20 on files, but that endo procedure takes you 90 minutes to be able to do, or you can spend $30 on one file and that reduces your time by 45 minutes. What's the better spend and stuff here? Everybody
Yeah.
looks at the price tag, but the
Right.
amount of money that you gain or have the ability to gain by opening up that 45 minutes of chair time is worth way more money um, than the money that they were spending on that file, right? So if you take that kind of thought process and you apply it to the things that you are spending money on, obviously we're a vendor, we're a supplier and stuff for these offices. So um, one of the things that stood out to me on the practices that do the best job, or we feel like are our most successful practices, is they do spend time wanting to understand the market and wanting to get things out of our relationship with them.
Yeah.
You can get online and you can order. I mean, you can spend your money there and you can order and get a box in the mail, right? And that's your return on investment and stuff that way. But if you decide to buy your supplies and stuff from us, not only are you getting the box in the mail, but you're hiring a guy that you can put to work for you on your behalf that has time on his half to be able to spend on your behalf, if that makes sense. To where um, are they willing? If you doctors famously are not making money unless their hands are moving, so their
Yeah.
ability to go out and work on ideas and things like that to make their practice better, or to go figure out what the next step is in their practice, all that kind of stuff, it's hampered because they're stuck in their little cave that they drive into and they work in every day, and then they leave and they don't get to see what else is going on. um, we believe pretty firmly in using our expertise, and if you're buying supplies from us, we're doing everything we can to help you grow your practice, to making sure that, okay, you're spending here, but we want to do everything we can to turn that into an investment by bringing ideas, by bringing opportunities, by streamlining some of your processes, by doing the shopping that your team doesn't have time to do, or shouldn't have time to do. If you're running properly, they shouldn't have the time to be able to go hop on 17 different websites to be able to get the best price and stuff that's out there. That should be our job to be able to do some of those things for you. So as far as return on relationship goes, if you're spending time with somebody, um, ask them to do something on your behalf. And if they're not willing to hop in and to help you, that's not a relationship that you should probably continue to invest a lot of time and stuff into. If every conversation you have is what you can do for them and it's never what they can do for you, um, that's where burnout happens in dentistry. There's everybody's taken from dentists,
Yeah.
right?
I,
So everybody's relying on them making money and all of those types of things, and the pressure and the anxiety that comes from that and stuff is real. So you've got to have some people that you surround yourself with that's willing to give back to you and show that you're worth it and isn't just taking and is willing to give. And those I feel like are the doctors that are the happiest, that are running the most successful practices and things too, are the ones that understand how important the relationships is and the balance in those relationships. And if you're going to spend a little money or if you're going to spend a little time, look at it on what they're bringing back to you and what they're willing to help out and stuff with.
right.
Um, is it a box in the mail, or is it somebody that's a friend that's willing to listen, that can be a therapist at time, that can
Right.
bring ideas and next steps, and honestly push you where you don't want to be pushed to be better, and hold you accountable to those things. We seems like in today's world, accountability is like causes some frustrations, but it's those that you can build a friendship with, that will hold you accountable to the harder things, are the ones that are probably the most important.
Yeah. Well, and that's just to underscore that point, really, George. It's just that so many people hire someone just for the sheer fact of accountability. I mean, it's whether it's personal life or, my wife's a personal trainer, and it's like we know what we need to do most of the time. Like we know we need to eat better. We know we should exercise. We should sit less. We should do all these things, but you really need someone there to help you stay accountable, and like you
Yeah,
said, to push you and prompt you when you don't feel like you want to do it. you
yeah,
know?
yep,
Yeah.
yep, yep. Life is busy and it's hard, and there's always things like my mother-in-law's right now, her husband just passed away, and she has all this new parts of life that she's dealing with. And she was explaining to my wife the other day, like, I have a checklist and I'll check things off and I'm feeling so good. And then there's 17 more things added to it. And the
Yeah.
frustration and anxiety and stuff that's being added
Yeah.
to her is she's having a hard time dealing with it. But that's real life and stuff, right? And having somebody that can help you understand and hold you accountable to the most important ones, to the ones that have a ripple effect that touch all of the other ones. Those people are precious, and those people are the ones that make life feel full and happy and joyful instead of feeling like everybody just wants something that is draining and it's draining. And we only, no matter who you are, we only have so much. We only have so much in our gas tank, and if we don't have some people that help us fill that gas tank back up and stuff again, the ripple effect of that's negative for sure.
Yeah, finite resources that we're working with, really, and that's a very strategic paradigm shift. I mean, to say, well, here I'm going to go after, yeah, the cheapest, least expensive. I want to save cost that way, maybe at the expense of time, maybe the expense of all these ideas. Versus, I'm going to invest in this relationship because I know down the road it's going to bring me one. It's going to bring me, it's going to reduce stress and anxiety and time one off, but also you're gaining, like you said, George, all these ideas, all these for this person who's like you. I loved how you said it, working on your behalf, kind of looking into these other practices and thinking, man, well, why can't we do this for George? He's in this same situation, and
Yeah.
this would apply beautifully to what he's trying to do as well. So, I mean, how do you get someone to start thinking more intentionally, thinking more strategically when they're just, yeah, they are kind of focused on the number side?
Yeah, it's education, and it's honestly, I've had this conversations with doctors over and over and over again, and you can honestly see the light bulb go on. Like you can see that they're like, yeah, that makes so much sense. Like I'm so game for that. Like I want that relationship. And then Monday hits, and they go right back to the and
Yeah.
that like that first stressful thing happens or whatever, and like our like reactionary that's built into us and stuff through all these years pops back into place, and we
Yeah.
lose that momentum and stuff that way. So it's taken a little bit of time, and we don't all have it, but it's making sure that we know what we want to accomplish, that we have chosen a direction for ourselves. And if you can choose that direction for yourselves and then make decisions that align with that direction, it's so much easier. It's so much easier to look at your profit and loss statement and see the direction that you're heading and understand it and make decisions that way, instead of dissecting every single line item and trying to save a little bit of money here, and when in reality that money that you're saving there is going to cost you so much more throughout your career because of the lack of participation that you have from other people.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I've seen that in my career as well. I mean, there's things that I've decided, well, I can do that because I know how to do it. One, and it's maybe it doesn't take me all that much time, whatever. You kind of justify these decisions
Yeah,
sometimes. But as soon as you let those go, it's amazing how much more energy you have, your ability to look bigger, think bigger picture, work on the business instead of in the business type approach. It's phenomenal. I mean, it's just that the returns on those are enormous, and they're a little hard to quantify, especially as you're first getting into that. You're first making those first initial steps. Um, but it also reminded me of there's one of these marketers that I followed for years. One of his big things was, hey, fall in love with your clients. Don't fall in love with your products or services, your own company. Fall in love with your clients, because when you do, you make them the hero of the story. You're really just trying to support them any way you can. And that
yeah,
sounds kind of like what you guys do at Patterson. Is just you when you have a client, now you're so invested in them. You're trying to figure out what's the best, how can we serve them to the top level. I mean, what challenges are they facing? Can we support them in other areas? And I've actually seen you do this, George. It's really cool. I mean, just see your connections and your network that go way beyond just Patterson. I mean, you guys have a fantastic team, but you also have this huge network of vendors that you love to share with your clients, because then it's adding value to that relationship. Back to your point, it's that return on the relationship that they're accessing really. So yeah, speak to that. I mean, your kind of philosophy on that a little bit more, because I think that's so powerful.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's so many parts to a happy life and to run a happy practice and being able to guide and direct your team and to be able to influence them and stuff, right? Like doctors don't understand the impact they can have on their team. Like you can change these people's life, and it's not talking about paycheck. It's talking about principles and different things like that. Um and the lack of being drained and just the lack of time to be able to change those things and to work on some of the things that you want to work on. Like creativity is such an important part of happiness. Like creativity is like an energy booster every time you get an opportunity to be able to do that. And doctors specifically just don't have tons of time to do that because they've got to earn the money that's going to pay all of these people's paychecks and
Yeah.
plus take care of their family and stuff as well, but they have fantastic ideas. And um, I feel like that's where we can step in and help them. Like, hey, you have the ideas, we have the time to help you figure them out. And I've learned through that principle, especially that I don't have to be the expert in everything, and it doesn't have to be on me. That if I connect myself with the right people, then hopefully, no matter whatever that doctor needs, if I don't have the answer for him, I have somebody that's a master in that field that I can reach out to. And a lot of times that is connecting that doctor with that individual to have them share those life-changing principles or to get somebody that'll invest some energy into that doctor to rejuvenate him and his practice and his vision and all of that kind of stuff and things again. So it's such an important part of what we do as a manufacturer or as a vendor rep for these practices is to make sure not only we can supply them all of the little details that they need to run their practice and stuff every day, but that we also are supplying them every single person that they might need to build their success team. It's our job to get out and filter those people and make sure we're finding the best of the best that we can introduce these doctor to. Because when he's ready, we need to be ready to be able to make that introduction and stuff too. Because if we don't, life happens and an opportunity's missed, and the ripple effect of that down the road is who knows? It's like flying a plane, right? And the degrees, you get a little degree off course, you get 1 degree off course, and all of a sudden life's so different than it could have been, or the trip's so different than it could have been. And we need to make sure we're optimizing those opportunities when they come and the energy that they have at the time to invest into them to make sure that we can they're climb into the direction they want, you know.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. So let me ask you this. So from this is a marketing podcast, by the way. So let's dive into
Yeah.
that with that lens, I mean, from your perspective too. I mean, what are some examples of marketing that you're seeing practices doing that do focus on this kind of return on relationship where they're building that trust? And I mean, you can look at it from their lens in terms of, are they investing in their patients, but also are they investing in their vendors? Are they investing in those that are helping them find success in their business? I mean, I think that is such a key thing. I mean, going back to the example that talked about earlier, my wife's a personal trainer, and I go to a kind of a boutique gym, where it's like it's based on intervals, and they have, you come in, they tell you exactly what to do. You're doing it as a group, but just that kind of community, I mean, you're kind of plugged into this system together. It makes it so much easier. I mean, I think that same kind of mentality can be applied to your marketing, whether you're focused on your patients, whether you're focused internally on your team, or whether you're focused on your kind of partners, your network that you're building your practice with. So what are some examples that you've seen, George, of effective marketing that really focuses on that trust?
Yeah, it's all about alignment with the team. If you can make sure that you're all aligned and you know they know what direction you're trying to accomplish and stuff with
Yeah.
this. And then the ability to build stories is so underestimated in dental practices. Like I remember when I got into the CAD CAM position, the main reason I took that position, I actually had 3 different job offers at the time. And I was trying to make a choice on which one to take. And me and my wife went to Red Robin, and we sat down and we were sitting there at Red Robin, and all of a sudden there's this dude, and he's got I think they're a family, I'm not sure who they were, but there's 2 or 3 people that are sitting there at the booth right across from us. And I'm sitting there talking to my wife, and there's a break in the conversation, and I hear him start talking, telling them about his recent dental visit. And he's
Yeah.
sitting there telling them about how he went into this office and they had this machine that they made crowns and how cool it was, and that he just got his crown all in one visit, and they actually let him like stand up and like go watch the mill like work his crown and all of this
Yeah.
kind of stuff. And like I took it as like a sign from the heavens. Like I've never heard of anybody talk about dentistry at dinner and stuff before, but this guy's sitting there telling the story of
Yeah.
something that took place in the dental office. And I think that's something that we need to do, that needs to happen and stuff consistently. Every time they enter your practice, everybody has that grandma that makes you feel like you're the most important grandson or granddaughter or whatever in the world. And then you start talking to your cousins, and they all feel the exact same way as you
Right.
do and stuff, right? And we have those opportunities, or these practices have those opportunities to make somebody feel like important and special and stuff like that. And a lot of it has to do with how you treat them when they walk in the door. Like, or did they walk in the door and your front office has their head down and just looks up and it's like, hey, what's your name? And okay, I think we have everything. Like, go sit down. Like, don't bother me.
Yeah.
Or
Right.
are they excited to see him and they call him out their name and there's a little bit of notes in there so they can ask him about their kids or whatever and make them feel like they are special and stuff when they walk in there? And is there notes for the hygienist to be able to do some of those things as they walk him back? And um, do you have conversations with your patients and stuff? Do you ask them like what their expectations and stuff are? Um,
Right.
you hear about people like I have a daughter-in-law that hates the dentist, and the main reason she hates the dentist is because they try to talk to her while they have their hands in her mouth. You know,
It's so
so
true.
so for most people, for some people, that is a fantastic experience to have somebody sitting there having a conversation with you, and for other people, it's not. And do we can we have those conversations? Like, is there a little bit of a questionnaire and stuff in there? Do you feel like they're important enough? I've met a few practices that they do a new patient tour. And this is one of those return on relationship things that you talk about. Like they do a new pay every time a new patient walks in there, they show them they're excited and they do a new patient tour. What they
Yeah.
didn't realize that would happen is that they had huge issues with their sterilization room being a mess and stuff all the time. And as soon as they started doing this new
Yeah.
patient tour, their staff felt the responsibility of making sure, knowing that they were like showing themselves off. And when you're gonna show yourself off, you always want to show them your best, right? So it
Right.
had this ripple effect on all of a sudden their sterilization room was tidy and stuff all the
Yeah.
time because they were bringing new patients through and stuff every time, every day. And so there's little ripple effect things of these decisions that we make that can change your staff and also change the experience and stuff for the patient as well. And you've got to think about that. Like, if you want a patient talking about you, you have to give them something to talk about. You have to give them a story to be able to tell when they leave, and stories come from expectations being met and exceeded, is where those stories and stuff come from. Um, for example, I was stuck on a plane with an older couple flying to Los Angeles recently, and they found out I was in dentistry, and they started telling me this story about this old dentist that they used to go to, and it was great. Like they didn't know any better, but what that dentist sold, and they had to go to a new dentist, and how amazing the new practice was, and the technology that they had, and the experience that they had was just so much different. Expectations were just that exploded on. Like they just went so far past what that this old couple's expectations were that they're sitting here telling me about it on a plane. And honestly, like dentistry's the last thing people choose to talk about unless they've been impressed, unless they've had expectations exceeded and stuff. So
Yeah, those are great points. I wanted to kind of circle back on two of them. One was just, yeah, the alignment idea, where you're getting your team aligned, and that does take some work. I mean, it's not something that generally happens just in one single meeting. It's an ongoing effort to say, hey, this is really what we're all about, to plant that flag in the sand and identify, what does that mean? I mean, it means that we do things this way. It means that we treat people this way. Maybe it means a new patient tour every time they come in and have everything clean and looking really our best. But once you have that alignment, it makes it so much easier. And that will extend, if you have that clarity, then that's going to extend to, yeah, your patients. They'll start to understand that. It makes that story easier to create because you're all rowing in the same direction. You're really all trying to create that same experience or story for the patient. But then you also get the outside, the vendors involved. Once they understand where you're trying to go, make it a lot easier for them too to start working for you, because now they know what to do. I mean, they're like, oh, good. George is going this direction. I can help him these 7 different ways, but if they don't, they're just kind of, they can try and help, which, a lot of people still try and do, but it's not quite as effective, and so I think, yeah, that alignment is a huge, huge opportunity for a lot of practices to take a look internally and say, what can we do to, where do we want to go? What do we want to be known for? And then that can trickle down into everything else. When it comes to marketing, once you have that, it makes it so much easier to know what to say now, because we're trying to do everything to go to that direction, and it's so much, makes everything much more simplified. But then I also love too the story. You brought in that story element, and I'm a huge, huge proponent of sharing those stories, of really kind of making some of those, I mean, part of your experience with your patients, and just sharing those, just, so that you can relate to patients, whether they, yeah, like you're talking to them while their hands are in your mouth, or a very traumatic experience they've had in the past, and maybe how you've helped other patients overcome that. But just using that storytelling ability inside your practice, both with patients, but also with your team, to reinforce those values, to come together and say, hey, look at what we were able to do for Sally over here, who has hated coming to the dentist for,
Yeah.
20 years. Now she
Yep.
loves coming, I mean, she has so much more confidence. She seems lighter. She's happier, just really making sure that those stories, don't end once the patient leaves the door. I mean, that it lives in your practice, something you can rally around, and then you can share with other patients as well. So I love that you said that. Is there anything else that you would add to that, just the story aspect?
Yeah, I had a light bulb. I was out hiking with my son one day, and we were up by this big waterfall, Bell's Canyon, that's up down there in Sandy, and it's beautiful, and you see this water and stuff flowing. And for some reason, we'd been watching Bear Grylls
Yeah.
recently, and I'm sitting there watching this water, and I remember watching Bear Grylls, and he was talking about finding clean water when you're out in the wilderness, and how you accomplish that. And he said that the key is direction and momentum. Like if you have water that's flowing in the same direction that has some momentum and stuff behind it, every time it hits a rock or different things like that, it's naturally filtering out the bad stuff. And so if you can find water that's moving in the same direction and has some momentum behind it, that's the water that you want to drink. You do not want to drink the water that's standing still and sitting in the same place, and that's where bacteria and all that kind of stuff grows. And I remember thinking like the light bulb that went on was like, oh my gosh, that is like the best analogy for culture,
Yeah.
is what it is. Like if you're moving in the same direction with some momentum and stuff behind you, you can look at your life and there's thousands of things that you want to fix, and in your practice, and there's a tons of stuff that you want to fix. But if you're if you're moving in the same direction, you're aligned and you know what you're trying to accomplish, and you get some momentum and stuff behind you, and you see every patient that comes in as an opportunity to kind of build that momentum, a lot of the crap filters itself out
Yeah.
naturally, and you
Yeah.
don't have to spend as much time filtering things out as making sure that you have a good team that understands what you want to accomplish and is willing to invest in that and stuff when they come in there. um, and then you have to be strong enough that when somebody's a rock that's sitting, the huge rock that's causing standing water, that's making your momentum not shift and go in the same direction that you want, to be able to call that person out and move on from them if you want to. Because that's the thing about bacteria. Once it affects one area, it spreads, right? So it's those two principles and stuff a lot.
I
And
love that.
you kind of mentioned this before, like as a vendor coming in, like naturally all of our people want to help a doctor. But if the doctor doesn't tell them how to help, then if he won't take enough time to be like, hey, this is what I'm trying to accomplish here, if you can help me in that, we will spend all of our time bringing in things or helping them understand things or bringing in different principles that help them achieve that. But if not, that's when you get the rep that's going to come in with a different flyer every time and throw something on the wall, hoping that something sticks and that they can get your attention and stuff with it, right? And I tell our reps all the time, like you're a nuisance, like you're annoying if you're if you're not having the conversation to figure out where that practice is going, you're a nuisance when you go in there because you're taking time and it's not you're spending their time instead of it making an investment when you walk in there and stuff for them. And but the hardest part is getting the doctors or the office to actually share that information with them on their direction and stuff too, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's always a challenge, but yeah, if you can, it makes a world of difference. So I was
Yeah.
going to ask you, kind of along those lines, just to paint the picture of really just kind of contrast the practice that does have that more of a return on relationship mentality versus the one that does not. What are maybe some of the consequences? What are the symptoms? And then the benefits associated with more return on relationship focus.
Yeah. So I think I had a guy talk to me once. He's a marketing guy. Not you, is a different guy, but he was like, he actually does a little bit of consulting. He's more of a consultant than he is a marketer, but he's like, we've taken over some of the marketing because the worst thing you can do for a company that's not running properly is to market it. Because
Yeah,
then all you're doing is showing that like you're spending all this money to get new patients in, and then these new patients come in and see that you're a disaster. Like that's not
right.
what you want them
Yeah,
to be able to see and stuff, right? So it's important to get your ducks in a row and stuff that way. And I feel like that's important. Like new patient has to be a part of your strategy. Like it
yeah,
has to be something that you believe in, that you're willing to invest in. But you've got to break that down into kind of a marketing funnel to where you can understand where you're doing good and where you're not, so you can make some corrections and stuff along the
yeah.
way. Um, there's a guy named Russell Brunson. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. He's a ClickFunnels guy. Like he has this hook story offer that he talks about. Like I don't care what you call your funnel, but you've got to understand what your steps are so you can understand like the hook is what gets a patient's attention, which is great. So you'll see like maybe it is your SEO investment that you've made, and now all of a sudden you have a patient that's calling your office. Now you get a chance to tell a story, but if you don't answer the phone, that tells a story, right? That tells that, and you probably miss out on that patient. Or if you answer the phone and you immediately put them on hold and they're on hold for 5 minutes, that tells a story of what's going on in your practice and stuff a little bit. So they'll go to their marketing person and they'll be like, hey, you got me 10 phone calls, but only two people scheduled. I'm sorry, that's not your marketing person's fault as far as the person that's bringing you those leads. That's an internal issue that you're not telling, that you're not prioritizing or understanding the story that you're telling and stuff during that time, right? So, and now you tell a story enough to make a patient want to bite and to do something with you. So they come in and now they need a bunch of dental work and stuff in. There's a call to action that needs to take place and stuff there. And if you have a lot of patients that aren't telling you yes at the end of it, then you're not presenting your story and stuff correct. And they might point the finger at this marketing guy and be like, you're giving me crappy leads, like you're bringing me crappy patients. No, it has nothing to do with the type of patient and stuff that we're bringing in. It's the story that you're telling, and then your your treatment plan that you're presenting to them and how you're going about that, and maybe it's your payment options. Or if you can look at your marketing funnel in a way to where you can analyze each part of it, you can figure out which part is screwing you up, right?
Yep.
And is making that patient not come back or not refer you or whatever and stuff it might be. I think that's the part that some practices do really, really well, is they try to look at it at each step and figure out how to maximize each step and see which step is working good. Like I mean, you're a marketing guy. If you're doing a Facebook ad, you probably got to test 3 or 4 different ads to figure out which one people actually respond to and
Yeah.
stuff. And then once you figure out which one they respond to, you dive into that and you invest some more money and stuff
Hmm.
into that. In these practices, there's high turnover, there's a lot of stress, there's a lot of anxiety, and a lot of time, I would say the biggest defining factor between the practices that run really well is that they take time every single morning to realign people and help them
Hmm.
refocus. And talk about their mission and stuff for a minute, or just make sure that they understand, like, okay, like whatever going on in your life is going on in your life. That's great. Like you put that on hold for the next 8 hours, and we're creating this experience for our patients. And if you're focused on creating experiences, the stories naturally happen and stuff
Mm,
from those. And then that patient, that you've actually spent all this money in to get into your practice, not only wants to come back, but now gives you access to their whole circle of influence and stuff too, because you've given them stories to go do it. And that's not just monetizing, but that's like multiplying the relationship and stuff at that point, because when you can get access to somebody's circle of influence, that means that they trust you. And if they trust you, that means you've done your job and stuff
yeah.
appropriately, and that you've influenced and impacted their life in a positive way, to where they want to share that and stuff with other people. So every new patient that walks in, you have an opportunity to do that. And if you're not understanding your marketing funnel properly, you don't know where you're missing it out when you're not getting that end result that you're wanting.
Yeah. And I think it's so important to look at that, to take the time to really analyze and break it down step by step. Because like you said, then it makes it a lot easier. You're not putting the pressure on your, the one advertisement that you have out there and, one line in the water, not banking on that to score some massive tune-up, right? I mean, you're looking at it very strategically and saying, okay, this part's working really well. Actually, we are getting a lot of the click-through rate is great. So we know the messaging's on par. Okay, what's that next step? Now can we break that down and optimize that a little bit more? It's looking at it a little bit more scientifically that way. And I like to use the example. I don't know if you've ever seen the show How Things Are Made, but it's like assembly line, and they'll break down each step of that process to make a pencil or whatever it is. But then each step is only designed to do that one step, and that's all your marketing really needs to do is just get them to take that next step. It's like thinking much like a chess master. You've got 11 steps that you're planning out, but you're really just taking the next step one at a time, and so it's a lot more strategic approach. But when you do that, it makes it a lot easier to evaluate and analyze, because then like I said, you're able to really zero in on, well, if I'm a patient at this stage in the process, what are they thinking? What are the challenges? What are the pain points? And then you're just focusing on that. You're not, again, trying to get them to buy everything all at once. You're really just trying to get them to take that next progressive step towards the goal. So I love that. I love that analogy. I was going to ask you, George. So now, if I'm a doctor and I'm hearing you talk about return on relationship, and I'm feeling a little bit more comfortable with that, what are some kind of practical steps that you would say, whether it's maybe speak internally? You mentioned some of those, hey, you got to take the time as a team to realign on a regular basis, whether that's hopefully ideally that's daily or weekly. But also, what are some other ideas that you might have to get started in that with that mentality, and then also to extend that to your relation to your vendors, your vendor relationships, someone like a Patterson, and just say, hey, this is what I'm trying to do. Where can you help me with this? Or what would you recommend? How could we leverage those relationships better?
Yeah. Um, I I think the part that most people miss, like the doctors, so there's doctors that retire with $1 million in the bank account, and there's doctors that retire with $50 million in the bank account. They each work 25 or 30 years. You know what I mean? So, and they'll talk about, oh, he just picked a better place, or they just this, or they just that. And it was the difference in how they spent their time and how they went about it. And some doctors want to just be a dentist because they know that it's a good lifestyle, that um, you can make some decent money and you can be home in the evenings and all of those types of things, which are really good things.
Yeah.
Um, but it's pretty few and far between where we find somebody that's like put together like a mission statement, and like has taken time to really define the impact they want to have on people in their profession. Um, those are the ones that we find are the most successful, because they have this mission statement that they can come back to, that they check every decision they're making
Yeah.
against.
A filter. Yeah. It's like a filtering
Yeah,
mechanism.
yeah. So I remember talking to a guy once. He was kind of a religious leader, and he kind of brought that principle. He was like, like this is our goal. Like when you're a parent, you got to measure every decision against that goal and what you're trying to accomplish and stuff with your kids. And it just helps, it helps with perspective and makes it to where you're not making decisions in a small little box. You're making decisions based off a direction you want to go instead of making directions on how frustrated you are right now in the moment because somebody did something that you didn't think was perfect or something like that, you know. Um, so I would say that's number one. And when you have that mission statement, you know the impact that you're trying to have. And the mission statement isn't I want to be worth $50 million and stuff. Like that can
Yeah.
be an addition and stuff to it, but it needs to be like the type of impact that you want to have on the people that you get to influence and stuff every day. And that includes all of your patients and stuff too. And when you have that you can measure and stuff against consistently and you're making decisions against, and then you share that with the people you're with, they know what you're trying to accomplish and then they can help you move things in those directions and spend their time that like our reps are gonna spend time on you. Like whether you want them to or not, they're gonna spend some time on
Yeah.
you and they're gonna continue to come into your practice and they're gonna continue to try to show up in your life and stuff like that. Like they can spend it and they can make it a real investment if they know where you're heading. But if not, like I said, they're probably causing more disruption than they're helping and stuff sometimes. And if that's the case, sometimes we blame that on that individual, right? When all they're trying to do is help. And if we just took a few minutes to understand where we're going and share that with other people, then it'll allows them to align and stuff with us too. And so taking the few minutes doesn't have to be, I mean, ChatGPT can probably help you like organize it and stuff today the way you
Totally.
want it to and get each word right. But if you understand what exactly the kind of the influence and who the impact you want to have on other people and stuff. Now you have kind of that baseline to continue to make to keep you all aligned and moving forward, and that's where momentum and stuff can be built, and the people in your life can help you build.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was just thinking of a few people in my life as you were talking about that, just that I could be more open with, and just say, hey, these are some of my goals personally. And if you have thoughts on that, I would love to hear them. I mean, there's people that are in great position to speak to those that I know, but I, for whatever reason, haven't reached out, and or anything like that, and been specific with. Um, so I mean, there's so many opportunities for that, and I think that's a really important thing to remember, that we could do that on a regular basis, even with people, yeah, that might be trying to solicit our business and just say, hey, I think of this one gal who's been trying to get me into this. It's a coaching program, and I really respect what they do. I followed their content for a long time, and I've read some of the books from the founder and just really aligned with that. But it has just quite hasn't really quite been the timing yet. But if I could even just step back and be more honest with her and just say, hey, this is what my challenges are right now, and just even if she has one idea, and that's my point of sharing that is
Yeah,
all it takes sometimes is just one simple, elegant idea that really resonates with you and just kind of, like reverberates inside you that's to the point where you just all of a sudden you see things more clearly. And that can come from anywhere. I mean, I
yeah,
loved your story about being up in the, at Bell's Canyon and you see the waterfall and the water flowing and what Bear Grylls was saying, and then how that connected the dots for you on relationships and dental and everything that you were doing. And that's the power, right? It could come from really anywhere. And that's why this focus on the relationship is so critical. I had so I served a 2-year mission for my church, and my uh, leader in charge, the mission president, we call him. He said something that has always stood with me, and you mentioned parenting too. This has come to play, been played a big part in our parenting, or tried to be a big influence for me. Is he said the relationship is always more important than the issue, and I just loved how he phrased that, because no matter what might happen, no matter what decision might have been made, which could be very painful to me or to a lot of other people, the relationship is the bedrock. That is the most important thing there. So make sure that you're focused on that relationship in the way that you react, in the way that you speak, and the way that you use your time, and I think the same could be said here with your, and you could insert patient, you could insert team member, you could insert vendor, but that relationship is paramount. That's the most critical thing, and if you can treat that like it is, like it should be, then you're going to reap so many rewards.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that. If you, especially coming into a dental practice, like you have an opportunity to create an experience for somebody, and too many doctors just look at it as like, I have to do a filling
Yeah,
today.
yeah,
You know what
I
I
know.
mean?
Yeah, yeah, and they get used to it. I
Huh.
mean, they see it all the time.
Yeah, like every opportunity is an opportunity to build a relationship and to gain access to their circle of influence. I think maybe that's the shift that I'll see in some doctors sometimes as they understand that like every interaction you have an opportunity to gain access to somebody's circle of influence if you do it right. And
Yeah,
that circle of influence, like what better marketing can you ever have than having
there's none.
somebody that
Yep.
trusts you reach out to people that trust them and say, man, this guy was awesome. This was a really cool experience. Or this lady was like, this female dentist was amazing and stuff today.
Yeah,
Like, I didn't know what I was missing by going to a male dentist. You know what I mean? Like, whatever and stuff it might be. Um, but you've got to be able to share that experience. Like, you've got to give them something to go share. And if you can work on that in your practice and try to create that in your opportunities and stuff that you're having, honestly, it's kind of energizing and stuff too. Now you're being creative every day, and now you go home with energy instead of going home being drained, and you show up for your wife and your kids better and all of that kind of stuff too. Um and it's a mental change and focus on, but it takes time every morning when you show up to be like, this is what I'm accomplishing today, you know?
and it's a good way to get your team involved, is to go back to like what we were saying, where you're breaking down every step and help them get ideas or brainstorm ways that you can make that step better, and just
Yep.
say, what are some ways that we can exceed expectations? I mean, your
Yep.
comment on, it's stories are told when expectations are exceeded. That's exactly, that's the impetus for why people share things, is because like, oh my gosh, I used to hate going to the dentist. Now I do. I love it because of this,
Yep.
and this. But if we can look at it that way and get our team involved, now they're starting to think more like an owner, instead of just an employee that's there to get a paycheck. And now you're getting all access to all these different ideas. Like you said, it's a lot more energizing collectively and individually, because you have these things and you're starting to see the fulfillment of this, I mean, your vision. It's really so powerful when you break it down like that. It's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree. It's it's life changing stuff. Like that's the degree off course or whatever. Like
Yeah.
you you let yourself get into a mindset to where those things aren't important to you. That's the guy that ends up kind of liking dentistry, that gets burned out, that probably struggles with his bills every day, like all of those types of things, because that's the ripple effect of the decisions that you're making every day is on how you decide to show up. You decide to show up in a certain way and create momentum in a certain way, where you would what you achieve, and you, every aspect of your life is just so much different than it is when you decide not to show up, or you decide to be present, to be there but not to show up the way you want to show up.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good way to end it, really. I mean, it's just it's on that point. Yeah, it's all that decision to show up and how you show up every single day, and getting your team to buy into that vision, and it has such an effect, I mean, I kept thinking as you were talking about this throughout this interview, is just the hope that you can instill in people, whether it's a simple feeling, I mean, it's just the routine things, the way that you approach those routine things can have such a powerful effect and impact on that individual, and then, also on yourself and your practice. So I love that. Well, any last thoughts, George, before we wrap this up?
No, I think my encouragement would be, I remember reading a book, it's called The Four Disciplines of Execution, and they talk about like writing down all of these things that are going bad in your life that you want to fix or whatever, and then um, finding one thing that impacts each of them in a way, and then making that one thing your focus. And even if it's just 10 minutes a day, by making that one thing a focus, the positive impact it's going to have on everything else. And for some people, it's going to be sitting down and deciding how they decide that they want to show up, or putting that mission statement and stuff together. For other people, it's reminding them and stuff of it. But um, life's too hard. There's 1,000 things that can gain your attention every day, but your attention is your most powerful tool in your life. And what you decide to give your attention to is going to, the ripple effect of that is going to change everything else. So be um, find that one thing that you can give your attention to that is going to impact all the other crap that you're dealing with in a positive way, um, and see what happens. See the fruits and stuff that comes from it. And I promise, just that one little mental shift can make a huge difference in your practice, but everybody around you, and they'll feel the difference. And the impact that you'll have is going to be so much more than it ever could be, just by taking a few minutes to figure out what that one thing can be.
Yeah, 100%. I couldn't have said it any better. Actually, I mean, if there was one kind of episode to watch or listen to on this podcast, this would be it. You know, I mean, if you just took this, what we talked about, and really went deep with this, it would have such a profound effect. You really wouldn't need to worry about a lot of other things, to be totally honest. You know, you'd get all those benefits that you talked about, where people are happily sharing the story of your practice to their sphere of influence, and it's making everything, you know, run so much more smoothly and efficiently. So I just want to say thank you, George, for coming on and sharing that message. I think it's important. It's been good for me to hear personally. And I've taken away a lot of just different ideas that I now want to go implement. But I really appreciate you taking the time. What if people are interested in Patterson, if they're interested in, and what, maybe have questions for you specifically, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you my cell phone number. It's 801-671-9382. I'm more than happy to take any phone calls or text messages, or set up any meetings and stuff that way too. My email address is george.white@pattersondental.com. You can reach out on there and stuff as well. And um, I mean, that's what gets me out of bed every morning. Like, I want to make an impact for my team. I want to make an impact for you guys. When I came back to Patterson, the decision was like, where can I have the highest level of influence, and make dentistry, and help people change and get better. And becoming the GM of Patterson gives me a much wider net to be able to
Yeah.
do that and stuff with. And um, I want to learn from so many of you and stuff too. So please reach out, and if we can build that relationship and grow and stuff together, it's something that gets me excited and stuff every day. So
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you again, George. Really appreciate you coming on. We'll have to have you back in the future.
awesome. Thanks so much, Mark. Thanks, everybody.